Have you heard whispers of strange happenings in Collingwood? Perhaps you've heard rumors of a haunted location or two. This type of local lore, passed from one resident to another, is nearly impossible to prove or disprove, yet the rumors persist. Some lore is new, and some has been around for generations. The Collingwood Museum has the privilege of caretaking and sharing the stories of our community. As such, we're often entrusted with eerie accounts of local legends. It is our responsibility to ensure the information we share is historically accurate. Clearly, most ghost lore cannot be verified. But what should we do with the spine-chilling tales that are so intriguing they must be shared? This Halloween season, we're presenting 4 short stories written by museum staff and volunteers that are based on Collingwood lore. Parts of these stories may be historically accurate, and some parts may be total fiction. How much of these stories should we believe? We'll let you decide. Now settle in and join us for our first story of Unsettling Lore.
This is a story about a young woman named Elizabeth who worked at the BEILD house in Collingwood. The word BEILD is Scottish and it means to afford shelter. Unfortunately, the shelter that the BEILD house offered her was not always comfortable. And so her story begins. I started working at the BEILD house for Dr. and Mrs. Arthur back in 1914. Just before the start of the Great War. The beautiful house had been built a few years previously and was also the location of Dr. Arthur's medical office. Some very strange things went on in that office over the years. Voices called out to me when I was alone in the house. They sent shivers down my spine. I think near the end of my employ that they were trying to hurt me. I was a parlor maid for Mrs. Catherine Arthur. She was a striking beauty. She loved music and was a talented dancer. Her friends called her Katie, but of course, I called her Mrs. Arthur, or Ma'am. She had given birth to 2 beautiful children, a boy in 1904 and a wee girl in 1910. Their nanny, Millie, was in charge of their care. Over the years, staff came and went. Once we had a new cook who went to take tea to the doctor and heard a strange, raspy voice calling to him. "What are you doing here?" said the voice from the washroom beside the office. The door was open, and when he peered in, there was no one there. The cook gave us notice that very day and left before the sun set that night. The laundry maid left in a huff after the piles of freshly laundered and ironed sheets were found strewn at the bottom of the back stairs. She was alone in the main part of the house. She blamed me and Millie, but the honest truth is that it was not us. I can only imagine the aggressive spirit who would be so nasty. Millie and I stayed on in the house to care for Dr. Arthur after his dear wife passed in 1945. The unearthly noises and vacant footsteps continued, and we could feel the presence of Mrs. Arthur. When going past the second-floor landing, I could smell her perfume years after her death. She loved the BEILD house and her husband. I can understand why her spirit stayed on. Dr. Arthur died quietly at home in 1950. When Millie and I were closing down the house, we heard music coming from the sunny parlor. We peeked in, saw the handsome young doctor dressed in a suit, a white tie and top hat, dancing with his beloved Katie one last time.
That was The Last Dance, written and told by Jackie Plater. Jackie based this story off the legendary hauntings of the BEILD house, where there have been reports of apparitions, strange voices, footsteps, and poltergeist activity. Were these spirits connected to the medical practice that Dr. Arthur ran out of his home? Was the well-dressed man Dr. Arthur himself? Questions like these may haunt Collingwood residents because we can never fully answer them. So we'll leave it up to you to decide how much of this local lore you want to believe. Thank you for watching the story of Unsettling Lore. Join us again for more stories, and stay spooky, Collingwood.